All right, it's 4th of July, and I haven't made a video in like, I don't know, maybe a half a year. So I figured it's time to get everybody updated on what the boat progress looks like. Mechanically, I think I pretty much had everything all worked out here before I put this up for the winter. And I had most of the rigging fitted out, like dry fitted, just to make sure everything bolts up the right way, and I had all my holes drilled in the right spots. And under decks, I kind of tackled all of that stuff. So I got my fuel system, battery chargers, battery trays, all my pumps, live well plumbing and pumps all set up. Refurbished my live wells. They're pretty dirty right now because they got all kinds of sanding gunk in them, but repaired those, re-gelcoated those, and I did a lot of the what I would call heavy lifting on the fiberglass repairs on the hull. So the big things were I kind of rebuilt the whole, I wouldn't say the whole thing, but I laid up a bunch of glass in the splash well in the back here. This was kind of cheese ball when I got the boat, so I ended up tearing a bunch of it out and laid up a whole bunch of biaxial with resin. And then I also reinforced the bottom of this thing because there were some spots where it was getting kind of soft. I've been, for the last couple of weeks, I've been fairing this out. So not only getting all the old paint off, so this was painted with some sort of a topside, really cheap topside paint. It's that horrible maroon color. I'm gonna on the interior stuff here, I'm gonna probably hit that all up with epoxy paint just to cover up all that nastiness. But as far as the stuff on the actual, what I would call the business end of the hull here, I'm gonna end up spraying Gelcoat. So to get prepped for this, I took all the old paint off and started fairing this out with total boat fairing compound. So this is getting down to pretty much a nice smooth surface with no pinholes. Got it all leveled out. And I did some repairs, or I did some modifications to my little helm station. I put on a kind of a hood. This thing looks like a Commodore 64, but you know, it's way more functional than just the cheese ball thing that they had on here before. So that was all made out of like Luan, and it was all fully glassed and reinforced with thickened epoxy, and then it was all tabbed in with glass. So I ended up having to do a lot of surfacing on that because glass is, you know, glass is glass. So you end up ultimately having to fair out a whole bunch of it. So that's getting to, we're almost ready to prime time here. I think I got just a couple more spots I got to finish up. I got some radiuses I got to get in here and clean up. And you know, it's tedious. It's really tedious work. This is about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 weeks of nights and weekends. Getting in here, you know, fair it up, sand it down, refair it, etc. The only major damage I had on the hull was kind of up here. When I originally stripped this out, there was a big crack. I want to say somewhere in here. So some cheesehead freaking went ramming speed at a dock or something and put a damage in here, and they did a really bad repair. So they just filled it with freaking fairing compound, and then they put that disgusting red paint over it. So all of this was you know, obviously it's surfaced out now, but prior to all this work, you can see it on my previous video, this was all re-glassed, so it was all cut out, properly repaired, multiple layers of biaxial glass reinforced, and then it, you know, it resined in place, and then everywhere that had a lot of pitting or holes or whatnot, that all got filled with resin, thickened resin with you know, with fumed silica. So a whole lot of work. Holy crap, my elbows are killing me. A lot of this work can be done pretty easily with power tools, you know. So where you can get away with it, you can use the DA. I did most of the flat surfaces with my power board because I do a lot of automotive paint or whatnot, and that sucker is great for just getting super flat surfaces. That thing is badass. It's a Hutchins Hustler, air powered, just your regular board file. But between that and the DA, that was pretty much, I think, a lot of the heavy lifting. But ultimately there's a lot of hand sanding involved because you got to get into all those little nooks and crannies and those corner radii and stuff. That's all got to be done by hand. And then obviously there's a lot of detail work, like on this helm station, you know. I had finished that before I tabbed it in place, so thankfully a lot of that work was kind of already ahead of the game. So that's got kind of I guess a weird treatment. It's called Rondo. So if you mix up body filler with epoxy, if you do like a 50-50 mix of Bondo and epoxy, you'll actually get like a really viscous sandable surface, and it works really good. I mean, you literally, you can brush it on and then you sand it down. It sands just like Bondo, and it's very cool. So for those of you that want to try that trick out, it works really good for automotive detailing stuff as well as boat stuff. But that was all kind of half done when I tabbed it in, and then I just came back after I glassed it, you know, sanded everything down, and then went over everything with fairing compound just to blend it all in really well and make sure I have no visible pinholes or sinks or anything. So this is my 4th of July weekend. Hopefully I'm going to get this wrapped up this week, get all the rest of this body work done, so that way I can start shooting some polyester primer, and then ultimately some gel coat. So my plan here is, I guess I'll cover that really quick. My plan here is, so my priming surface is going to be Duratec, just your regular old poly surfacer. I like Duratec products; they're really good, and that's also a really good product for mold making. So for anybody that wants to make parts, you can actually get, you can use that. This product here, Duratec 707, is like your typical poly surfacer that you'd use to prep molds, and it's polishable. Not that I'm going to be polishing it on this boat, but I will block it with 220. But this, like, you can literally compound it, you know, wheel it, so you get like a mirror finish when you're doing molds, positive or negative molds. So that stuff is really cool, and it's compatible. So it's not compatible with epoxies, but it is compatible with polyester. And then gel coat. So I had a gallon of this gel coat, but it was too red for what I liked. So I mixed that, got another one with the red I did like. So I got a really kind of a standard bright red, and then I've got my glitter flake, which will go in the clear. So the objective here is to lay down poly surfacer, block that out, get that leveled down at 220. I'm going to go over that with gel coat, and then immediately after that I'm going to go through with however many coats of clear gel coat with glitter flake, because I'm going for kind of a handlebar mustache 70s OEM look. And then finally, when you're done with that, go over that final layer with just regular clear with wax. So that is styrene wax. So you use that as a sanding aid. So basically what that does is it helps to basically it helps to keep that tack that you get with gel coat, keeps that down to a minimum, so you get a hard surface, which is conducive to wet sanding and polishing. So that's the plan there. And then as a backup, just in case. This stuff is always great. So this is just mold release, PVA mold release. So that's my insurance policy. So I honestly, I've never used styrene wax with clear gel before. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about it, but I mean, this is a freaking fishing boat, man. I kind of, you know, I'm kind of gonna roll the dice on that one. But my insurance policy is, if for whatever reason that doesn't seem to work right, PVA always works really good. So again, the idea is, if you seal it from the air, if you have an air seal on the finished surface, then it'll help that gel coat cure up without any tack in it. So I had a sample here, so I kind of did a little dry sample. That wasn't in clear. I was just looking for what the flake was going to look like against the contrasting color. So that original color was kind of pinkish orange, and I thought that looked like ass. So I nixed that and I went for a really deep red. So it's going to be like predominantly it's going to be like a red glitter flake, and then I got some silver mixed in there just for some, I don't know, for some flavor. So that's where I'm at this week. I'll keep you posted with more videos, probably when I get ready to shoot some primer. But all in all, this thing is starting to get really straight and clean. I'm hopeful. Talk to you later. All right, good morning YouTube, and happy 4th of July. Well, I jumped the gun and I went and sprayed my boat yesterday, which was fortuitous because today's the 4th of July and it gives me my day back. And honestly, I think the weather's supposed to turn here in Michigan, and this just gives it that couple more days to cook off before I have to go and wet sand and wheel this sucker. But it turned out really good. I'm a little skeptical of Gelcoat just because it's two things. Number one, it's very frustrating to shoot, only because the pot lives on these are measured in minutes. So you got like 15 minutes tops to get this thing on the boat once you catalyze. So it's an exercise in preparation, and you know, and you're losing weight when you're spraying. I think you lose about 5 pounds in sweat just moving. So once you're committed, you're like on the clock. So that's a little frustrating, but and also this, inevitably, it doesn't really matter what kind of equipment you use, it inevitably gives you like a really orange peeled finish. That's just the nature of the beast, unless you're doing in mold stuff. But if you're just spraying this onto regular, you know, substrates, it always orange peels. Deal with it. That's what wet sanding and wheeling is for. The advantage, though, is in the end you're going to have a compatible surface that is color throughout. So unlike a two-stage system like you would do for automotive paint, where if you get a scratch in the clear and if it breaks the clear and goes down into your base coat, you're effed, right? You're gonna have to do you know, I'd say a pretty detailed repair. This stuff, like, you can wet sand it and polish it until you're theoretically down to the base layer, right? Which is great. So the advantage of Gelcoat really stands out there. Plus you get like a really thick film buildup. So I mean, you can get this is, let's say, four or five coats maybe. You can get like a really substantial film buildup, like 40 mils, pretty quickly. So I'm happy with it. I ended up shooting like a red base layer with a second layer on top of that with a glitter flake, so it's like a red and a silver mix. And then I came back and shot like an accent strip on the edge. It'll be kind of subtle, like most of this is covered up by rub rail, but it'll be kind of subtle, so just to, you know, just to break it up and make it a little spicy. But all in all, this sucker is pretty sweet. I'm very happy with it for what it is. I mean, it's it's not a show car, it's not a show boat, it's a fishing boat, right? I'm going to use it for fishing. Cool. So the next I guess the next big project is probably later in the week. I'm going to start cutting into this with some wet sanding and wheeling. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is getting a smaller pad. I'm going to try to get some smaller pads, like some 3 or 4 inch pads, just so I can get, there's a lot of inside detail here with these small radius corners and stuff. So in the meantime, I can get that stuff all set up, and but it sparkles in the sun. I tell you, it looks really good. I can't wait to get this thing finished and start putting my stuff together and get the rigging in. I'm very antsy and anxious to start using this boat. So there it is. That's like, so September 2 years ago was when we started this project, and I'll show you the before picture. This thing was super clapped out, and now it's got I'd say a heck of a lot more features. It's mechanically sound, and it looks a heck of a lot better. And we've got kind of a period correct paint job on this sucker now, instead of that hideous maroon top coat that was all cracked out.